defeating Valladolid 7-0. We move on to Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland. Look, man, 7 goals in 3 games, 2 hat-tricks in 3 games so far to start off the Premier League campaign. He scored in every single game. I think for me, Erling Haaland does not get the credit he deserves, which is crazy to say because he does get a lot of credit. He's looked at as one of the best players in the world, but there's people look at him in sort of a derogatory way because, okay, maybe derogatory is a strong word, but there is that sort of ability that he doesn't really get the respect he deserves because he's not the most technically gifted player. He does not have the ability of like Messi to play in tight speed. Not that player at all. But what he is, he's a poacher. He's an animal. He's a beast in front of goal. And he is a deadly, deadly player. And he's a player that strikes fear if you're a center back going up against him because he can do it all. He's a great finisher. He's a good aerially. He has size and strengths, and he can out-muscle you. He has pace. He can run in behind. He can do so many things in terms of, as a number 9. Now, he's not going to drop down and sort of, play like, Harry Kane or anything and be a sort of creative player in midfield. That's not his game. Although, that is an underrated part. He can receive the ball in midfield and sort of not play those sort of crazy diagonal balls that you see, Harry Kane play. But he can, get the ball sort of comfortably, control it, get it from one side, and keep the attack going and keep the attack flowing. But he isn't the most technically greatest, sort of player, but he just has that knack. And if you get the ball to him in the box and he has an opportunity to take a strike 99 out of 100 times, that's going into the back of the net. He's an absolutely brilliant player. And to score, and these what he's done since he came at Manchester City, the numbers are unbelievable. They're just unbelievable. They're not human numbers. The only numbers I see, crazier than this is Messi's numbers, and Messi's numbers is just absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about Erling Haaland. Let's go to statistics actually. At Manchester City, so far this year, he scored 7 goals in 3 games, 2 hat-tricks. Last season, he had 27 goals in 31 games in the Premier League. Not his greatest outfit, but, still a really good goal scoring spring. The Premier League campaign before that, his first campaign, 36 goals in 35 games. 36 goals in 35 games, and he scored 6 goals in 9 games in this past Champions League. The Champions League before that, the Champions League campaign that they won it, he had 12 goals and in 11 games. And Erling Haaland, he's a brilliant player, right? And he had, I think, part of the reason why he doesn't get the respect he deserves is he had that, in the semifinals and in the finals of that Champions League run, he did not score. He didn't score. He didn't register a single goal. But Manchester City he's able to open up space for other players because of how much fear and how much attention he gets from the center halves, which nobody talks about. And also, when Manchester City are going up against these sort of bigger teams, they tend to play a little bit more slower, tend to be a little bit more precise, tend to be a little bit more, sort of more careful and cautious with the ball in trying to break down these teams. And they don't really they don't really hit that long ball over the top that Erling Haaland can be devastating and running in behind. They don't cross the ball in and give Erling Haaland chances to, win it 50-50 opportunities in the air. They kind of have a more precise and sort of measured approach to it. And they don't really feed Haaland the way they do going up against, the lesser teams. Because when the pressure gets on and you're playing against these sort of great teams, Manchester City tend to play a little bit different, which for me has cost them a little bit over the past few years, especially late in the Champions League. And I don't blame Erling Haaland for that, for not being able to score in the semifinal and the finals of the Champions League. Because think about this. Do you see an opportunity that Erling had in those games, and you were like, did you ask yourself, Erling, You need to ask yourself this: all the people that criticize Erling Haaland for not showing up in semifinal and finals, in their opinion, do you watch that game and do you see Erling Haaland miss an opportunity that he should hit in the back of the net? Is there a clear-cut opportunity that he essentially chokes on? No. He doesn't get those opportunities created for him in those sort of games. That's the thing. Erling Haaland is a brilliant player, and he just doesn't have, he just doesn't get the chances created for him the way he does in the rest of the games in the season. It's not like Lukaku. Now you've seen Lukaku in in important games for Belgium, for Inter Milan, where he's had clear-cut opportunities that he just flat out misses. Clear-cut opportunities that you can point out. You can't point that out when it comes to Haaland and those sort of situations. The games that he doesn't score is because there was no chances created for him. So for me, so far, based on recent form, yes, he is the best player in the world. Because look, you're gonna compare him with Kylian Mbappe, yes, but Kylian Mbappe, he scored his first goals at Real Madrid La Liga campaign. He scored his first few goals this past weekend. We'll go more in depth in that tomorrow. We didn't have time to get it for it today. He had those 2 goals, but in this past European Championship, so far the start of the season, that second half of last season, especially that run PSG had in the Champions League with PSG, where he wasn't really at his level. Mbappe has not been at his greatest since that 2022 World Cup. I don't see that same Mbappe that we saw at that World Cup. It's been a little bit flat from him. For me, Erling Haaland, what he's done, the way he started this season, I mean, he's been a beast. He's been an absolute beast. And look, there's other players like Mohamed Salah. There's some really, really good players out there, some top-level players, some top-level talents. But for me, I do have to give him the slight edge right now. Just 7 goals in 3 games. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. 7 goals in 3 games is ridiculous. That's FIFA numbers. That's when you hop on FIFA career mode and you sign a striker like Mbappe and Haaland. That's when you get numbers like that. This FIFA career mode numbers. Messi, that 92 goal mark in the calendar year, that will never be beaten. I mean, I have to say that will never be beaten. But apart from that, this is the greatest I've ever seen in terms of a goal-scoring aspect. And yes, he does play on Manchester City with amazing ability and amazing quality, and they have the players to create for him, to create a lot of opportunities for him. But at the same time, he's the one that has to finish it. And his ratio, I don't have the exact statistic in terms of his ratio, in terms of chances finished, but I have to say Erling Haaland in front of the goal, I don't even need to look. I just assume is going in. I just assume he's going in. Every time he gets a one-on-one opportunity, there's no doubt in my mind that the back of the net is going to nestle. There is absolute no doubt in my mind. And it just shows the sort of player that he is and what he's been doing. And look, I think it's pivotal for Manchester City. I was talking about how, sometimes Erling Haaland doesn't get the chances created for him in those sort of league games in the Champions League. I think it's pivotal when they're playing these better teams, whenever the pressure starts mounting to, because the Manchester City players, Pep Guardiola, how, he sets up, their nature is to be a little bit more safe, a little bit more, safe with the ball. And they don't like to take those risks. They don't like to, put a cross in a 50-50 area and risk losing the ball, or play that sort of diagonal ball over the top to Erling Haaland. Be a little bit more direct. They're naturally not that direct. And whenever they're playing against Ipswich Town or playing against this lower teams, and they're playing with confidence, they're willing to try more things. They're willing to take more risks. But when you're playing against a difficult team in a late sort of round situation where the pressure is on, an elimination sort of situation, I feel like as a team, the pressure does get to City a little bit, and you see them resort, a lot back to their normal ways of pretty slow in possession and really trying to, sort of pass the ball into the back of the net, and they don't take the risks that they do, when they're playing when the confidence is high and they're playing sort of a lower ended team. So for me, the key for Pep Guardiola and the City team is to keep that sort of, because they're naturally a possession based team, but they have a little bit of a direct element to them with Erling Haaland. Play to that more when you're playing against the tough teams and when the pressure is up. Take more of those risks. Play the ball over the top to Erling Haaland. Put a cross in so he can win a 50-50 opportunity. And give him the chances to sort of, make his mark on the game, because he doesn't get that many opportunities created for him in the sort of late games. But yeah, for me, right now, I have to say Erling Haaland is the best player in the world, and he continues to keep up what he's doing. He will run away with Ballon d'Or this following season.